right, so this is episode one of Explorers, uh, my new podcast. Uh, and the reason chose that title, Explorers, is because the guests that I'll be featuring on here are explorers of all different realms. I'm very curious and intrigued to be uh, picking the brains of these amazing artists. So today we have Jacob from Blue Karma. Is your last name Adam?
Hello, Adams. Yep.
Adams. Jacob
Uh-huh.
Adams of Blue Karma. Uh,
Yep.
I encourage everyone to check it out right off the bat. Pop it on Spotify while you're listening to this podcast so you can get a feel for what Jacob's pursuing and creating. And that will pretty much dictate the theme of today's episode. I'm going to be asking Jacob about his creative process. We're going to be just shooting the shit and having a good time. So here it goes. Jacob, I would like to first kick this off by asking you, why did you name your EP Square One? Was that meant to be a pun, or is there some more to that story?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, essentially, I went through a lot of hard times this year, as I'm sure a lot of people obviously can relate. And it really just felt like, starting from square one. And especially in terms of music, it was my first release. And it just kind of felt, it kind of came to me. And I just rolled with it.
That's awesome, man. I noticed that there was a very kind of literal uh, interpretation of it with the psychedelic squares interlapping each other.
Yes, I did play around with the visuals to complement the name as well. Yeah,
Nice. And
yeah.
you said this is your first release ever, like no previous side project bands or anything like that?
This is my first as Blue Karma, um, which is kind of I guess my own like solo project. I mean, it's kind of morphing into a band at this point, and we'll see where that goes. But I was involved before Blue Karma with a band called Volume, which a couple of my friends from from high school, we uh, had this rock band going on in town, and that was a lot of fun.
What kind of music was Volume?
It was a lot of like classic rock, and I was trying to get them into psychedelic rock and stuff like that. And we had a really good run with that with them, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Those guys were great, high energy. But that's the only other thing I've been in.
What ended up happening with Volume? Were you guys, did you move apart or different musical interests?
Yeah, we just kind of grew in our own directions, with music and with life too. Like two of those guys just bought a house, and they're doing big things. So we're all growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking into buying a house soon. I feel like
Oh, that's exciting.
that's a whole nother world there. It's just all these incremental grown up changes that kind of happen naturally.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard for me to to fathom getting to that point, but it's
So
coming up.
so with playing in a group, do you prefer writing solo or do you prefer writing with other people? Just strictly on the topic of writing music.
I That's another good question. Typically, I like writing by myself, which it just it's like I have to be in my own space and really take my time on it, and experiment a lot, and like not having someone kind of there, it takes the pressure off, so you can kind of go at your own pace. Um, so that's how I like it, but I'm trying to be more collaborative because there's a lot of benefits to that as well. So
Yeah, I think the reason that you're one of my first guests is because we have so much in common in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, I like writing alone so I can let my voice crack in peace, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. You can do as many takes as you want, and like
Yes.
no one's gonna get mad.
It's more the embarrassment for me, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I'm somebody that'll record a vocal take 50 times if if I don't like it the first
Hmm.
49 times through, I'll just keep doing it over and over again. And uh, I don't know if I would be so, maybe I'd be less critical if there were other people in the room,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's a perfectionist thing or if it's just being picky because ultimately take 50 kind of sounds like take one when I get down to it.
Yeah. I know that feeling when it's like, is this getting better or worse?
Yes.
But but I just wanted to say your vocals sound phenomenal
Oh, thank you,
on
man.
all of your songs. I can tell that like they really shine in the songs. Like that stands out to me
Thank you,
as
man.
really good. Yeah.
That means a lot. I mean, that's probably like the shyest area. I mean, it's the area that, it's not like pressing a button or playing a tuned guitar where you can kind of be certain that it's going to come out the way you want. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
your vocal cords can betray you. So
Yes. It's
that's
unpredictable.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to learn where my breaking point is, where it needs to flip into falsetto kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I forget.
Yeah. You just gotta feel it, like, and if it comes out right, it does. And if it doesn't, just record it again.
Do you like belting it more or going falsetto when you're doing like high pitched stuff?
Typically, I fall into falsetto. It's something I've relied on because I always had trouble projecting. I'm a very soft-spoken person, so I'm told. So singing was a big challenge for me. Um, I just really pushed myself to just do it. And like, I mean, I'm not like a great singer by any means, but I just practice, and anybody can do it. They just gotta keep working at it.
I love that perspective. Um, I'm totally in agreement that like I think music is for everybody. Maybe you and I have had, it's hard to say if it's just our interest in it that has propelled the skill or if it's, I just have a hard time believing that talent decides people's ability to engage with art. I always thought that was such a like a big turnoff for a lot of people. They say I'm not talented, I can't sing, I can't play guitar, I don't have that talent. But what you're saying is super uplifting and inspiring and motivating to me of, if I were somebody who wasn't currently singing, hearing that would definitely make me like a little more inclined to give a shot at it. I think a lot of people just need to hear that simple fact of like, hey, I was uncomfortable too, and I just pushed through it, and it's a skill that
Yeah, I
right?
I see so many artists, and it's a shame like that. Every artist is so self-critical of themselves, and people starting out, and it's just getting over that hurdle to where the point where you like actually believe that you can do it. And I just really think if anybody is out there who's like wanting to develop a skill, just go for it, and like don't let anyone judge you. Like it really doesn't matter. I just had to get over that.
Yeah. On that note, I I decided before this episode it would be a good idea to stalk you a little bit on social media. So I took a quick peek at
Yeah.
your. I figured it would give me
Oh gosh.
some give me some material, but
Yeah, yeah.
it brought up a good question that I had for you. I noticed that your Instagram, you've been posting some musical stuff on there since like 2016, and I
Mhm.
noticed from 2016 to 2019, there's like a total of 3 posts, and then after that you said, hey, I was shy about my singing, but whatever, I'm gonna do it anyways. And I was curious, after noticing that, what changed in you? Was there something in that 3 year span of, or 2015 to 2019, where you're like, some transformative moment that you kind of lingered with you?
That I really do think something clicked in my head to where I decided I just wanted to go full force with it. But initially, like back then, I was super, super shy. Like I never imagined myself singing ever. And
Wow.
I just had so many people, saying you should do this. And, I guess I just tried, and then I put myself out there. And sometimes that's all it takes too, is like putting yourself out there and seeing a response. Sometimes you will be surprised, and like just the people's response propelled me to keep going with it. And
Yeah.
like I'm sure you can relate. Like I know a lot of people have great things to say about your stuff too, and it makes you want to keep doing it, you know?
Yeah. It only takes a few people
Uh-huh.
for me to keep that motivation going. I mean, it just takes maybe 5 people being like, this is cool, for me to be like, all right, it's worth it. It's worth my
Yeah.
time.
I
But
agree. Because sometimes someone will like reach out and say something just super meaningful, like the song, they may really relate to the song, and it like impacts them. And that's what it's all about, really. Like we gotta, like, this is a time we need to create. It's such a there's so much going on. Like we gotta bring up the vibe and bring in art more, you know?
absolutely. I mean, it's something that, like, it's fulfilling on multiple levels when you make a song. For me anyways, sometimes I've got a problem on my mind, and putting it into song form, it's almost like doing a math problem where after you've worked it all out, you got your answer through creating the song. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, where like uh, you're constantly perseverating on something, then you make a song about it, and somehow in the process of writing that song, you answered your own question or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a very like healing, and it helps you. It's almost like meditation. Like it's a form of meditation where you kind of figure out in your head, what is actually going on. Um, and with songs, it flows out, you know, kind of like subconsciously out of your subconscious mind. A lot of thoughts come out, and then that you don't even realize are there. Like same with meditation, like the subconscious mind is more active. And yeah, I do think, it's great. Songwriting's great for when you have a problem and need to just get it out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then, yeah, on that same note, kind of like I was saying, it's fulfilling on multiple levels. I mean, that's just on a personal level, but like you were saying, times are so, all the news seems to be is just propaganda networks, and all that I can see on online news is basically that too. And it's just and then there's very real dangers involving our environment, the bushfires earlier in 2020 and things like that. It's just, it is a real avalanche of negativity. And so that's the other fulfilling aspect of music, is if you can give it as a gift to someone else, and uplift them amidst all this kind of like crappy stuff going on in the world, then
Yeah.
that's a whole nother, you can fulfill yourself with music, but to be able to fulfill other people too, I think that's the most special thing. When someone in my family, or if I write a song mentioning someone's name or making reference to them, and they say like, oh, that made me tear up or something, like that's the stuff that just, it's like, oh, I can rest assured that there was a good point in making the song. It made this person feel special.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like that's what it's all about. Just, spreading inspiration and positivity, because it is a nice feeling when get that back, those responses. So
It's infectious too. I think
yeah.
that just like negativity is infectious. I mean, you know, you you make a song with a positive intention like that, and you come to find that maybe it kind of flips people to that side. Maybe they were on the fence, and then now they're infected by that positive song you made, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I
and
know.
it just keeps going. It's like it just, your positivity will affect the other person, then they will carry it on, and it just, that's the way it works, I guess.
That is
So
the way. So I have a couple other questions rattling around in my mind about your creative process. So let me just choose one here without getting all Marvel mouthed. How about your lyric writing process? How does that start? Do you normally lay out all the instrumentation and then work in a melody and then start assigning syllables, or do you write it out as poetry first and then fit it to the song?
um I think it's different for every song. I would describe, I think the lyrics are the hardest part for me, and I would describe it as a very kind of chaotic, like kind of, it's just chaotic the way it comes together. I have to piece it. It's definitely, that's like the puzzle part to me, is the lyrics, because I'm thinking about syllables. I'm mostly thinking about the sound before the lyrics, which is, I don't know, I'm kind of curious the way you do it, too. I want to ask you
Yeah.
after this. um well, but like,
So
but
you're
yeah,
saying,
I mean,
do you put down the melody first and then assign the words?
yes, typically that's the way I do it. And sometimes they just come right out, and sometimes you really gotta fight for the words. And sometimes it don't make sense, but that's all right.
Yeah. Do you ever have that where you keep something just rolls right off your tongue and you're trying to find alternative words that are similar, but you're like, nothing fits as good as that first senseless thing that I said?
Yes, that happens all the time. Like, I'll say, I'll usually just like word vomit, just random stuff, and then something will stick and it just makes no sense, but it sounds so cool.
Yeah.
So I
That's
end up
all.
keeping it sometimes.
That's too relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've got a pretty similar process where I'll usually do the chords, and the chords and bass are kind of like, I guess, the journey for me. Like that's sort of the plot of the song, you could say. Like the emotional compass of it, I would say, falls in the bass and chords. Usually, once I've got that down, it's then a matter of kind of sprinkling some more stuff over the top of it. But occasionally, with lyric writing, and I'm curious if you experience this too, do you ever just kind of have those, like you come up with what you might think is like a wise phrase or something? It sounds like some universal kind of like, I don't know, you're just walking around the neighborhood or you're grabbing your mail in the morning and then some phrase comes into mind. And you're like, oh, that it has such an iconic sort of, the way it just seems to represent something so big, and I want to work that into the chorus. You ever have that occur?
Yeah. Yeah, those epiphanies, those are great. And you
Those,
got to write it down,
yes.
or you'll forget it. I swear you'll forget it if you don't write the stuff down. That's my mistake.
It's so true. Yeah, just the other day, I forget what I said to my wife, but we looked at each other and I was like, I gotta go write that in my journal. That was a good one. I'll see how I can work that in later.
That's funny.
Yeah, a little better than the quote that I sent to you. That the big picture is just the small picture but bigger. That's that's not quite the caliber I'm talking about. That's down here. I'm talking about the good ones.
I mean, I think that was a good one right there.
Yeah, it can be hard to tell. Sometimes I'm like, is this super corny or not?
I mean, look at like, I mean, look at Tame Impala. Like, he has some like very universal songs.
That's true.
Like, Yes, I'm Changing. Like, it's a lot of cliche stuff, but it's like
Very
so
relatable.
timeless. Like, 'Cause I'm a Man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a lot of cool stuff in there. I mean, he's obviously like that's my biggest inspiration.
I'd
So
be
I
li-
look,
I'd be lying if I said he wasn't mine too. I think I've come to fear the comparison that I'm like, I'll just secretly be a big Kevin Parker fanboy so that people don't put my stuff down and make me get all
oh
sad.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's there. I mean, it's pretty clear to hear in the production and arrangement of everything. I love that kind of like dingy beauty, I guess you could say. It's like I love that sound that that Kevin Parker crafts because it's got the grit while being so polished at the same time. I think that's ultimately the aesthetic that I love to see. I mean, that's it's kind of the reason I love Star Wars is because it's an aged universe. You know, it's like it's in the future, but it looks old. I feel like
uh-huh.
that's almost what Tame Impala is to me too. It's like it sounds futuristic but retro. You know.
Yeah, Tame Impala is like the Star Wars of of music,
Yeah,
essentially.
I think in Kevin Parker's words, he said it was the Lord of the Rings of music. But yeah, I
I
think
never heard that. That's funny.
yeah, some quote from him. I thought that was pretty amusing. I've
But
always
yeah,
been. Oh, go ahead, man.
oh yeah, I was just gonna say like that just nostalgic effect. It he has all the vintage synths going on, and it feels very like familiar yet new at the same time, you know.
I think the first time I listened to Inner Speaker, I was on a trip down the East Coast with my old bandmates, and we were just selling burnt CDs at malls and going up to people with headphones and saying, "Hey, would you like to listen to a sample of our band's music?" And we looked like the Beatles basically. We had ties and vests and corduroy pants and collared
uh,
shirts.
that's funny.
And so, yeah, we were in the band van. We gutted out a minivan, and we're just selling CDs. We weren't playing live shows, so we were just trying to make enough money to pay for gas and food to go down to Florida and then back up to Massachusetts, where we started from. But that's when my buddy Joe introduced me to Inner Speaker, and that's when it was just, I guess it was 2011 or 12. So like Pitchfork had just started to get on the Tame Impala buzz train, and when I
Mhm.
first heard it, it sounded to me because I was super into Pink Floyd and the Beatles at this time, and it sounded like something that was just lost in time. When I first heard it, I was like, "What? Like, what decade is this from?" You know, even though it was brand new. I was asking my buddy like, what is this? Is this some like psychedelic band that just got forgotten in time? And so it did thoroughly convince me that it was not from the 2000s, just from the first listen to it.
Yeah, that's that's a I like your story going down the East Coast and discovering them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that have you done any sort of tour attempts or things of that nature?
Not of yet, but I mean the vision is there for the future. If you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But
man. It sounds like you got a pretty tight crew that you're starting to put together.
yeah, this is the first time, I found three guys who just it just happened so naturally. They just reached out to me, and they're really just great musicians and great people. And it's the first time I feel like, something is going, like a band will actually work. Like bands always are so dysfunctional. There's
Uh,
always something, you know?
I feel like that's a big reason why I was like, I'm just taking matters into my own hands and doing solo
Yep.
recording.
Yeah, me and you both were on the, I know exactly the
It's just,
feeling.
yeah, when everything's falling apart constantly, it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna simplify the process and just rely on me kind of thing.
Yep.
But that's
That's,
the that's the funny thing is like then you reach that plateau where you're like, I can't just do it by myself anymore.
uh-huh. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, well, I want to play live or something. Um, and you need a band to do that. But unless you want to be a DJ, or,
Yeah,
but then again, people, I mean, you can do solo stuff, but it's like we have a vision for like a whole sound, we have like a big sound, and it's hard to replicate with one person.
I hear you,
So,
man. I thought about doing just backing tracks and going solo, but it's hard to
mhm,
get those drums and bass to really smack the audience, through
yeah,
through like a PA speaker, just all your stuff backtracked. And then there's also something a little less magical when it's just one person playing the backing tracks.
hmm,
I think
yeah,
that I think part of the beauty of a live show is like you can feel that chemistry on the stage.
yeah. I definitely think there is some kind of magic that goes on when music is created between people. It's like you really like synchronize, and I mean, it's just there's nothing like it really when you're in the zone. And it's I think it's like, I mean, it's like a drug. Every musician knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So it's what keeps
yeah,
us hooked on
yeah, man. Like I told you, I had that little audition today with the pianist, and just adding one extra person, it's like I'm about to get a little metaphysical here, but which I don't think you'll have a problem with.
it. Oh yeah, I'm down for it.
But it when you add those other players and you start playing the songs that you wrote, um, I don't know if you get this feeling, but it feels like you're like pulling something like out of another dimension or out of another realm into this one, and it's like it's yeah, it's such a unique and magical feeling because you're really just recreating the recording, but there's some additional component that's hard to kind of wrap words around that I don't know, like materializing the song again, fresh like that with other people is different than multi-tracking.
hmm
Like that's exciting when at the end you listen to it all and you're like, oh wow, it really came together, all those guitar harmonies and vocal parts and stuff. But um, yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but I guess I was just saying that it yeah, for me it feels like I'm sucking my song
I
out of an alternate dimension. So there's that.
no, I know exactly what you're saying, even though it it sounds like weird, but like there is something to that, and it's just there's no words to describe it. And I think of I also think about that in terms of listening to music. Like songs can, it's crazy how there's only, so many notes, but and so many chord progressions possible, but and music can be recycled so much, but it can take you to just like different, completely different places, like that are just incredible. I don't,
Yeah,
every
man.
place is different. It's
You
like
can
all different universes.
you could play the same chord progression with four different uh, voices or textures on it, and it's like just like what you're saying. It is totally different places that it takes you to. Just playing like an F, A minor, E minor, or something, and then you switch it to like a delay effect on it, and it's like, whoa, totally different.
Yeah.
Or some flanger or whatever. On that note, what is your favorite guitar pedal? I gotta know.
My favorite guitar pedal.
If you had to choose
Um,
one, just one.
one. Oh man, that's so hard. I have like so many pedals on my board. Can I pick two?
Just all right. You
Was
can
this one?
tell me your top one and then your runner up.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the top one, and it would probably be the it's gonna be such a lame response, but it's just the workhorse. It's the Boss Blues Driver,
Oh,
um,
what
an
does that do?
overdrive pedal.
Okay.
Yeah, it just. I mean, I'm a Tame Impala nerd. Like Kevin Parker uses it. That's not why I like it, but it just sounds so like crispy, like for those overdrive tones. And I started out on rock guitar, so I like kind of overdriven tone. Um, but yeah,
Is
I
that
guess
is that your favorite for doing like low note solos, like real like meaty, low distorted stuff?
it's kind of like if you crank it, it can get some like it can get pretty dirty, but it's like a good just it's like a transparent overdrive. It just blends really well with the tone. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's not like it's not some crazy effect. It's just
Yeah, it's
a
just hard,
standard overdrive.
kind of subtly in there, huh?
Yeah.
All right, what's number two for you?
I'm gonna look at my board. Honestly, if this is just in terms of like usability, because I'm like a very practical player. Like I want just what I need on there. But the next one would be like a reverb, the Digitech Polera. It has like a ton of different reverb settings, and it has this really nice shimmer reverb that's it just sounds like heaven. It has all these octaves that like are in the background, and
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
just yeah, it's pretty neat.
Is it almost like that angel choir um, effect?
Yeah, I think you could describe it like that. It's called like shimmering reverb is the type, and I mean like Strymon, the Blue Sky, I think has that as well.
Okay,
Uh, but yeah,
nice
what about
picks.
you?
Uh, uh, just any basic delay for me. I love delay because I could use it.
Okay,
I could use it in almost like a reverb capacity. I could just kind of make it slap back. I could have it really long delay. I love doing kind of like um, almost like palm muted, like that kind of
yeah,
delay.
yeah, yeah, like
I,
playing over the repeats and stuff.
yeah, exactly. I love that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So I could have fun all day long with delay if it were just me on an island with one pedal.
Yeah,
That'd be my go-to. But
that's a good one.
I grew up also on rock music and specific. I don't know, like I kind of feel embarrassed saying this in more sophisticated musical communities, but I grew up loving Blink 182. Like
Nothing wrong with that.
such a big fan of some of the most simple. And those guys, I've recently watched uh, videos of them playing live, and I can't believe how just many wrong notes they hit and stuff. But as a kid, I guess that was inspiring. I think that their kind of mediocre musicianship, at least playing live, and the simplicity of their writing, it made it very accessible to me to get into guitar. So I loved just jamming on power chords growing up, just distortion and power chords and palm muting.
Did you have a Metal Zone or a Line 6 amp?
Oh, the fucking Line 6.
Did
Is that
everyone has the Line 6 starting
I
out?
I didn't personally have it. My buddy, other musician buddy did, but I saw a great meme where it said like, "Thank you to all you beautiful amps." It's like in the writing, it just has a Line 6 in the middle and it says "Not you" over the top of it. But yeah, that
I don't
amp.
know why that amp gets a lot of hate, and like I liked that amp. It had really good onboard effects. It had the insane setting. Like if I was trying to play Eruption, just switch it to insane and like.
Oh my god.
But
Yeah, that thing is. I think to a lot of people, it just sounds like digital, like
yeah,
digi-
yeah.
digital
Like
garble.
it's like a plastic bag just like shaking in the wind.
That's
Like
that's such a good analogy. Oh my
like
god.
that's the digital distortion sound.
I don't think I've ever heard a better description of like nasty digital feedbacky noise. A plastic bag.
Yeah.
Oh
And
shit.
then you just run a Metal Zone through it. Bro,
So
tone heaven.
so what were your different musical phases, would you say? Like I've just admitted to my pop punk, phase here. Did you have any guilty pleasures or some
I
some funky phases?
I think what started it all, like that really got me into music was Led Zeppelin in high school, which I know a lot of people can relate to that because I
Not
mean
me.
Jimmy Page, not you?
Not me, but a lot of people, yeah. Like
Yeah,
everyone I know is all about
yeah. My
Zeppelin.
friend got me into him, and that's the reason I started guitar. Like Jimmy Page was he was just a badass. Like he just killed it, and that group was just a power group, and something about them just was it was just great music. They had so many good songs. But after that, I kind of ventured. I had the whole classic rock phase for sure, and I still definitely admire the classic rock stuff. And
Likewise.
but then it went to like Tame Impala, and then it's been like mostly since Tame Impala, it's like then everything changed again, and now I just don't even know what my music taste is anymore. It's so all over the place right now, you know.
Well, that's the thing that I love about Tame is that it sort of gives you an excuse to go all over the map since Kevin Parker himself is sort of like a little squirrely and unpredictable like that. He might just, try something totally new. And to all the
Yeah.
Tame Impala fans, they're like, oh, thanks for introducing me to this new, you know, disco psychedelic pop funk thing. Like, I didn't know I would like this, but I guess I do. And, it opens up all these other doors. So I think I would thank Tame Impala for that sort of broadening of my musical perspective. It seems I would attribute it to Kevin Parker's experimentalness, kind of gives me more of a inclination to poke around in genres maybe I wouldn't normally entertain.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that too. That he did kind of like it's my mind's a lot more open now to just listen to anything. Um, like a band I never would have expected I got into is it's a band called The Garden. And they're just weird. They're like a punk band, and they're dressed up as like clowns, like, and I guess they don't take themselves seriously, but they have a song with Mac DeMarco, but they're cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the interesting thing is when like an artist you love collaborates with someone you're like, I would have never listened to this, and then something kind of happens in your brain where you're like, do I like it or not? Like there's that on the topic of Kevin Parker, who did he collab with? The Streets, was it?
Oh my God, that's like, I was, that's the one I was thinking of. That one was so, in my opinion, I don't know, that one was bad.
You're not a fan? Yeah. See, I spent like weeks. I'm like, do I like this or not? And I think ultimately I still find it a little like a little too oddballish, but I find myself repeating that na 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 something better na 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 whatever that the English dude says in it. But I
I,
was gonna
yeah,
call you back. I swear. It's still kind of stuck in my head, so I'm like, maybe
yeah,
in a weird way it broadened my perspective.
uh-huh. See, maybe I'm being, I'm contradicting myself because that was like one song I didn't even hardly give a chance because I'm like, instantly, I'm like, what is this, you know?
I'm
But
I'm a little afraid to pull that on my own listeners. Like, what if I collab with someone really spicy and they're like, what is this?
yeah,
They
I
drop
mean,
me.
it's the shock value, maybe.
Who would be your dream collab besides the obvious?
Um, Honestly, I think we should collab.
What?
I think you're my dream collab, dude. Dream Shark, dream collab.
Yes.
I couldn't think of a better collab,
Blue Shark
like,
or
man,
Dream Karma?
or I don't know, dude. We're gonna have to figure it out.
Dream Blue. No, I'd be so down, man. Sincerely, I would love to do that. I
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a budget, as in like I don't want to work myself to death this year like I did last year. Because
Yeah, dude, you grinded. I've never seen such commitment to
oh man,
to music, man. That was incredible.
it's why I've been a little silent since the New Year's, like as far as social media goes and stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
I've decided I'll do three. Oh, I guess I'm dropping some insider info here, but I'll do.
Uh-oh.
I decided I'll do three collabs and three singles for 2021. So let's
That's a
do it.
solid plan. Hell yeah.
I would love to do a collab though. So however that goes down, whether you want me to write the bass for it, like as in the foundation, and you add on top, or you do it that way and I add on top, I'm totally down to see where that goes. I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Yeah, we'll just have to play it by ear, you know?
Yeah, it'd be cool to
Just
incorporate like dual vocals too.
yeah, yeah. Oh, we definitely got to do that.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, that's gonna be a good one. I'm excited for that, man.
Me too. This has now made this podcast. Now it contains a little gem that is quite exciting to me.
Yeah, I bet you didn't see that one coming. Me
Oh,
saying
that yeah,
me
it's an
saying that
honor
you're
too.
the collaborator.
The dream collab. Thank you, man. That's an honor.
Heck yeah, dude.
And likewise, man. I think that like everything you've put out so far is really high quality, and I can see it catching on pretty quick. And I know that both of us face this struggle of like, how the f do I get it out there? And these playlist promoters and Submit Hub, et cetera, et cetera. It's like I know that your music it's gonna go, up and up as soon as the right playlist picks it up or whatever. It's just a matter of that.
It's it's just a matter of finding the algorithm, finding the right. Sometimes it's just the planets have to align, and I'm a strong believer in it only takes one thing to like really pop off and go viral, and then it kind of propels you. I see that happen a lot, and I think that's very doable. Especially, I'm about to. I think I'm gonna get on the TikTok train.
Yeah, I've been
which
thinking about it too. I wish someone else would manage it for me, frankly.
yeah, yeah, I feel that. Like I hate doing the social media, but it's a necessary evil, you know?
I mean, let's reflect a little. I mean, we're only here now because of social media.
Mm-hmm. True.
I didn't know you before Instagram, you know? So
Yeah, it is an amazing tool.
if you use it right, then I think that a lot of opportunities and doors are there. But it's the problem is like if social media is your workplace for music, it's such a distractible workplace. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so easy for me to log on, start scrolling, and just be like, what was I doing again? Was I making a post or was I copying some hashtags or like as I'm skipping from app to
Oh
app,
yeah.
I'm like, my brain goes to jelly and I forget what I'm doing and I'm distracted by all these other posts and stuff. So it's like so easy for me to just
And
like lose my focus while trying to be on social media.
and that brings up another point, I think, which is people's attention spans nowadays when it comes to like uh, social media has done that where our attention span is like drastically decreased, I think, um,
Yeah,
because everything is so fast. Like you literally scroll, swipe, like whatever, and it's crazy. Like I'm noticing it affecting me, and we got to take that into account as musicians. Like people aren't going to give you the time of day to listen to like a whole album. Like I noticed you did singles,
yeah.
which I thought was very smart. And
Hey, I'm an old school guy like you, and I love just sitting down and listening to 12 tracks and getting lost in it. That's me all day
uh-huh,
there. But
yeah,
everyone else, it would appear that they're so fickle with their attention that it's like I thought, all right, well I have an album here and it's meant to all stick together as an album. But yeah, I did try that strategy of just I figured I'll just put it on a slow drip so no one gets overwhelmed and misses stuff, you know?
yeah. I do think like you want people to, hear every song because if you just unload the whole thing at once, you know, most people are, not gonna listen to the whole thing. So, but
Yeah.
but then
And
again, I mean, there's some people who really like us who really enjoyed just listening all the way through. So,
I think it's important to always remember that the exact type of listeners that you want, they do exist out there, and
mhm.
there's a niche for everything. I think it's pretty important to stay true to what you really want and what you believe, because eventually those people will come out of the woodwork and they'll be like, oh, I want to buy the vinyl. I'm into that kind of thing, And it's like, oh wow, I thought nobody liked that. I thought we lived in a TikTok world or whatever, like. But those people are still out there, and uh,
Yeah.
it's important to to remember that we don't need to fully change the things that make us us to appeal to the masses, because I think I can only speak for myself here, but appealing to a smaller uh, audience that loves your stuff and is truly engaged, that means more to me than getting tons of likes and seeing thousands of followers. Just like we talked about before,
Yeah.
it's more
It,
inspiring to just hear someone say like, "Oh, I listened to the lyrics and like it meant a lot because it applies to my situation," than saying like, "Oh, this track is fire," and then they just leave it at that.
yeah, just like having a ton of random people fire emoji like
Like,
commenting on everything.
that's
Like,
great, but I get nothing out of that pretty much.
yeah. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers. Uh like especially I guess if you're like to a lot of musicians, they get caught up in the numbers, but like you said, I think that's, you know, that's really good to remember, is just stay true to your art and like your you know, your people who really like it. And that's really all that matters, and more people will catch on naturally.
Yeah,
um,
there's something that like it starts to radiate this air of coolness too when like a artist or a group or something sort of has that like sticking to their guns, sticking to their identity thing. I think Mac DeMarco's whole following is very uh, keen to him for that exact reason. He's very much like, I'm not going to clean up the blunders kind of thing on some of his recordings. Like I've listened to him talk about how, you know, I just put it on tape, and if there's some weird static crackle or whatever, sometimes that's a fun surprise. And I think his fan base, you would think like, oh, there must be nobody who would enjoy that. As it would turn out, there's a lot of people who really like Mac DeMarco for that simplistic approach, you know.
yeah, he was a big, he was definitely another big inspiration, like for me, because it just shows you, you know, kind of a normal goofy dude is like out here doing it. Like, and he, I watched a video the other day where he's essentially just like, he just says, just do it. Like, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And like, I feel that, you know, like, I don't, no one knows what they're doing with the music. Like, there's just like, just do it. Like, there's no other way around it. And trial and error, like, you'll notice what works and what doesn't. But
Yeah, I don't know how many recordings you have before you finally released, but I can definitely say I'm still doing trial and error, and I must have hundreds of previous recordings. So if anyone thinks that I just hopped into it this year, you know, like, and same with you, there's a whole mountain of work behind it that like you do need to figure out. Oh, that doesn't sound so good, and uh, I don't know. I agree completely with what you're saying, which is that just you just need to do it and then listen back or receive feedback of if it worked or not. And probably 50% of the time it will not work, or it won't be to your liking, and that's just part of that growing process of, and then you just, you know,
yeah,
I'm never doing that again. I'm never, you know, whatever, putting for me like maybe some flanger on my voice or something. That sounded terrible. Or like oh, I auto tune that way too obviously, and like 10 people told me about it, and now I'm not going to do that again, or so, or I'll do it more subtly now.
yeah, yeah.
That's been one that I've gotten. I used to send demos to my brother before I started publishing them. And he's like, "Is this auto tuned?" I was like, "Oh, you aren't supposed to know." Like, I wanted that to be subtle. So yeah, trial and error, man. That's what it's all about. That's what all art is about. And hopefully at the end of the day, just making that art is satisfying enough to have gone through the failure potentially.
Yeah. And I think, you know, going off of that, like the biggest thing that holds people back is, one of the biggest things is like the perfection aspect, like us wanting to get it perfect. I know you feel that, uh
Big
you
time.
like it is so bad to be a perfectionist. It's the worst thing in the world, because you are focused on like such little details that like nobody is going to notice besides you, and it gets, you get like so in your head. And at some point you have to like tell yourself like, no, like just send it, you know,
Yeah.
just learn from this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, that's like with Mac DeMarco, like music shouldn't be perfect. It shouldn't have to be perfect for it to have an emotional impact. I think, you know, maybe less perfect music can have more of an emotional impact too, you know?
Yeah, that's very possible. Man, yeah, you're hitting home with what you're saying because I can get a bit obsessive with pitch bending things and like like I held that note out, but it warbled at the end or something, or like it just dove off tune at the very end, and I can't stand it for the life of me sometimes. And then I start getting super self-critical, and I'll be like, my vocal cords aren't cooperating, and and it turns into something not fun. But when I
Yeah.
when I was having the most fun with it was when I would set myself a Friday deadline at the beginning of 2020. I released my first demo watching, and then I just on the calendar or something, I just wrote every Friday like release a new song for the next whatever 5 Fridays or something. So every week I had to just make it, start from scratch, make a song, try to mix and master as best I could, and then publish it on YouTube on Friday after making like a little visual video for it. But that sort of fire under my butt to just, you have to post it today. You don't have a choice. It
Yeah.
made it so much easier to just write songs and like let the ideas just come and go. And it is a very freeing feeling to just let some of those little nuances go. And if they sound a little off, like sometimes it adds something to it where it's actually a little more special because of those dissonances or something.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's good, like, and like you said, setting a deadline is like for yourself is so important. I had to do that for sure. Like I drag it out. Like the songs on my EP, I had written those like 2 years ago, and I'm like,
2 years ago?
it's coming up on 2 years. Like,
That's a long time to hold on to songs. Like,
yeah, it's basically because I was that's where the perfectionism like is a downfall, because I just didn't want to release it because it was never perfect and it's never going to be perfect. So I just had to send it at some point, and
yeah,
I'm just really happy I did.
that's kind of the best thing is like, even if there's no following or no anything, it's just a treasure to yourself to like to have that final product of the album or EP or whatever it is. It's just like it's some of the greatest treasures I own is just the albums that I've made. They're,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
it's
whether
a
anyone
piece of your
listens.
soul. It's a piece of your soul out there, like basically in like a permanent digital form, which is crazy.
Well, now we're getting into the territory that's kind of my favorite and what I wanted to touch upon real badly in this episode,
Okay.
which is that um, that area of taking it from your soul, or like this representing a piece of you in that part of the creation process. What would you say in your own words is really occurring there? um, do you think that your ideas are a culmination of your own life events, or do you think that some of these ideas feel like they're downloading into your brain from another external ethereal source or something? Or like, how connected to your ideas do you feel? Do you feel like they're brewing in your brain, or do you feel like sometimes in a moment of clarity something kind of touches down inside your mind that you just never could have really put together yourself?
There's a lot to unload in that question. Like you touched on a lot of, like I related to a lot of what you were saying. But sometimes a song, I know when I need to write a song. Like there'll be something that is so like burning inside me. Like basically most of my songs come from like a pain like a painful event where I just need to like get it out. And that's what's so great about music. And sometimes it just comes out so beautifully through the music, and it's like we touched on earlier, it's like that release. You figure it out in your head after writing the song, and you feel like you figured it out. And then other times, like you said, like something will just like beam into your brain, like words or something come from this place, like the subconscious. It just is so random, but it's like, you know, it just comes together.
Do you have a specific example of something that that maybe you kind of went through this process on, like one of the songs off your album, maybe?
um I mean, I would kind of consider this almost, it's kind of like a, in a way, it's like a breakup album, because I had went through a breakup, and that also is like starting at square one. And
Mm.
so a lot of it just came from that pain, which is like a very deep, you know, a very deep pain that's like hard to, I mean, everyone writes about breakups, I feel like, or that's a lot of great albums are made that way. So it's kind of cliche, but
No, but it's universal, and it's. I've only had one real hard heartbreak, but it's it is a unique experience unto itself, and you know, similar, like on the note of what we were talking about earlier, of sometimes like it helps you make sense of it, it helps you get it out, it helps you organize your thoughts just by turning it into a song or into an album. um, I think that's like such a beautiful way to transmute a painful experience or something emotionally overwhelming, and then that's a way of making it more manageable in a way. And and so many other people also can help validate your feelings by saying like, wow, your song is perfect for me right now, or I can really relate to it. So that's an amazing aspect too. But
yeah, like there's nothing more beautiful than turning pain into art, and then having the art enjoyed, or you know, someone relating to that. So that definitely, it definitely helped get me through that for sure. um yeah.
that's an interesting thing that you mentioned there, that kind of a lot of art is spawned from pain. And I'm almost having a hard time thinking of an opposite example in my own personal experience. Like I I'm, maybe I can tilt this over here real quick, but maybe you've seen, I do these paintings of like wildlife creatures. Maybe it's kind of blurry, I think, but anyways,
I've seen them, yes. They're incredible, by the way.
thanks, man. I was thinking about it, and it's like maybe I created those out of a feeling of sort of pain and despair for our environmental disaster that we're amid right now. Um, I think that, you know, if I'm just kind of thinking about my mission with the art and why I do that for a living, it's all about trying to get people to care more about biodiversity and just to recognize the sentience in other animals and other living beings. You know, I think that just because other creatures maybe live more simply doesn't make them less intelligent. So, anyways, I was just thinking maybe I even paint weirdly as an extension of that emotional dilemma that I'm experiencing, and then that's my way of sort of trying to make it right, or to convey that feeling to other people of like I feel panicked that our creatures, you know, these different species are becoming endangered or extinct frequently. So it's weird. I never really thought about that until you mentioned it. But even though I think of that artwork as pretty uplifting, it does kind
Hmm.
of come from that hurt place in a way, which is kind of weird. I wouldn't have expected that that would be underneath it. And I think there is like a positive root to it as well. Not to say like it's all just sort of like putting negativity out there. I don't think that's what we're talking about. But and then with my album, even though it's really quite positive and uplifting, the
Mhm.
the core of it is I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but Mr. Rogers really was kind of a central figure with the creation of this album, and that might kind of sound like a joke on the surface, but I love Mr. Rogers, and I didn't even watch him as a kid. It was actually my wife that kind of reintroduced me to him, and she told me that um, him his program. You're familiar with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
The guy with the sweater.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
she told me that some of the words that he had to say about like if your parents ever get a divorce, it's never the child's fault. Like things like that that he said were deeply meaningful to her, and she said that he was a really important figure in her life, even if just through a TV. And I just thought about what a genuine, amazing person he is, and how he does focus on children and trying to help them feel included and integrated and grow up with healthy habits and things. But anyways, that kind of is the core of my album, but it does come from a place of pain. Weirdly enough, it comes from this place of this sort of emotional turmoil. For me personally, of feeling like I I hope I haven't disappointed the young kids in my life, like my little brother or my niece, or and I hope that I can be a proper role model so that they don't experience some of the tribulations or emotional turmoil that I've had to go through. I hope to help guide them. So that kind of was the point of the album. It was for adults and it's for kids, but it's about the relationship between the two. Really, but it's weird because I just sorry to go off on this tangent, but both my art forms, I realized might be born out of pain, just like you said, when I didn't realize that exactly.
Yeah, that's super interesting about I had no idea like Mr. Rogers was the inspiration. But like yeah, like you don't want the kids to feel that pain, the pain of the world, and like have to go through that. And like it's so amazing to, want to help people. There needs to be more people like Mr. Rogers
Yeah,
because there's really not, I really don't know that many people who are like genuinely, I guess, super kind-hearted like that anymore. Like it's very rare, and it shouldn't be. The world has like made people, I guess, like rough, and you gotta just deal with all these hardships. But I think it's good to keep that spirit, keep the spirit of Mr. Rogers alive, and like fight the good fight.
yeah, man. I think that you're always talking about good vibes and that and things of that sort, and I think you put that out there a ton, and that's why it's so easy to talk and get along. And I I think it's very relevant what we were talking about before of fickle attention spans. It We've become a very impatient species, basically,
Yep. Hmm.
and so that's why I love doing something like this, a long form podcast where it's like it kind of it's it's the one thing that people seem to be able to pay attention to. I mean, maybe people are listening to podcasts in the background for the most part, but the video podcasts on YouTube and stuff, it seems like people will tune in for a whole hour and just, watch the nuances between just the human interaction. And I love that that is kind of a thing that's, you know, starting to become so popular, the podcasting format, because it does make people more patient in a way. And I think patience just in general is maybe what's kind of missing from our culture, is that people are just so impatient with each other, with maybe listening to your whole album instead of one song. It's like everything feels so fast paced that everyone thinks to themselves like, I don't have time for that. Um, you know, and then the rudeness kind of takes over. It's like they've gone from being impatient to rude to now it's like it's hard to communicate at that point.
Yeah, we definitely need more patience in this world, like with all the fast-paced stuff. The phones are doing it too, but I mean, it's really cool being on a podcast like this, where like a long discussion. I mean, I never. I'm first of all, I'm really like honored to be on the first one. I think that's so cool.
Yes.
I I never thought I was gonna be on something like this. Uh, so I don't know. It's fun. There's a lot to, like, you can learn a lot just by. I feel like what we're talking about has a lot of good themes. Very like good themes for like artists, musicians, and just overall like just raising the vibe of of the world, really. Uh,
Yeah, man. I
but
mean, it's it starts on this level. I mean, not to bring back that silly quote again, but the big picture, it is just this, you know. It starts with one-on-one conversation and interaction and respect, and then it just kind of grows from there. But uh, yeah, it's definitely fun to kind of hear a different perspective and learn new things. And uh, yeah, I get a lot out of this for sure. I hope other people do too. But um, yeah, on the topic of kind of what the world needs, I do think that is what the world needs, is just to kind of take the time to just listen to one person at a time and hear their perspective and hear them out, because there's something that they know that you don't. And that's a big part of why I'm calling the podcast Explorers, is because everybody is exploring something at great length. Whether you're a musician or a drug addict, you know, they're
yeah,
they're exploring something. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
They have taken away pearls of wisdom from their experiences that we could stand to learn from. Or you know, whether you work at a flooring company or something, like maybe they're exploring new materials or whatever. But the thing is, everyone's an explorer of something in their own right. Everybody is working hard to discover new information about some field. So it's worthwhile to listen to each person's cool perspective, I think.
yeah. I think that's the perfect title, Explorers. I mean, you just summed it up so well. Um, we're all on that journey together, exploring. Just that's all we're here for. Just to, you know, take in the world.
My UFO is buzzing here.
Oh, that's what that buzzing is. I hear it subtly.
Yeah, this thing's floating off the. Can you see that?
Yeah,
It's like
that's cool.
a magnet that levitates it up.
Of course, that's I would expect nothing less from the Dream Shark household.
Jacob, it has been amazing talking with you. I'm so glad to have you on this podcast, and I'm sure we're going to be doing it again in the future.
Thank you for having me, man. That was a really good discussion, and I'm stoked to be a part of the first episode, man.
Yeah, man. All right, bring it in.
All righty. Boom.
Virtual 5.